Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast. Experience support for confident business makers.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Christian Boo Boucousis. When it comes to unlocking human potential and achieving organizational success, there's no one quite like Christian Boucousis. He is the CEO of Afterburner Inc., a former fighter pilot turned business founder, author, and inspirational speaker. Boo has earned over 1,000 five-star Google reviews for his unparalleled expertise in human behavior and organizational performance. Whether he's speaking to a small group or multinational corporation, Boo inspires people to discover a new way of thinking that empowers them to believe that even the most audacious ambitions are within their reach. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Boo.
Thanks, Ed. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, first, why do you do what you do?
I've got a very simple answer to that because I believe in it. I believe that what I was taught to do as a fighter pilot, my connection with a belief system and a purpose at a very young age is really what drives success. It did for me, a track record of being a business founder and owner. And now, not having to come over and acquire Afterburner and be the CEO of Afterburner. Late last year, the opportunity arose and I'm like, you know what? I really believe in this. The best way to do this is to acquire the business, get into the US and absolutely do this at scale. So why do I do what I do? Because I believe what I do actually makes a difference.
And let's talk a little bit about something specific that I know that you folks talk an awful lot about, and that is the military concept of a debrief. But how can we build a debrief as a mindset in businesses today?
It's interesting. Debrief, I think there's a legacy attached with debrief. You and I had a conversation around words earlier and how particular words create a belief. And I think historically the word debrief is a word that is associated with something that's quite negative, like it's not fun. We as fighter pilots in Australia actually call it the deber, not the debrief. And in a deber, what you're attempting to achieve is a peer group review of what just happened in the real world versus what you thought would happen, and connecting what we do to what we want. And it's very, very simple. It's because fighter pilots plan everything, right? Because the better you plan, the better you're prepared for when the plan fails. So we create these plans, and it's fundamental to debriefing that you have a good plan. It mightn't be a good plan in terms of what you plan to do, but a good plan has structure, everything is measurable, and everything comes down to an individual, not a department or a team. If it's a team, it's a leader. So you set yourself up to debrief by having these clear, measurable, achievable objectives and actions that all have an individual owner. So that's the start. Then there is no shortage of this in today's digital world. We measure those against the data we have as to the current results. The way the brain works and the way we make decisions, at first we start with perceptions, then we process those and project what's the likely future outcome of the decision I'm about to make. And this is a future that doesn't exist yet, right? So a perception isn't real. The future doesn't exist, and that's why we make that's how we make a decision. So no wonder we make a lot of bad ones, yeah? From there, the decision drives action, the actions deliver results, the results deliver an impact, and the impact in broad context is positive or negative. If you think of impact just as that, we can start shaping the way that we think. Now, negative impacts feed negative perception, so the loop keeps going down into a spiral. Positive impacts start to shape our perceptions. However, if we have positive outcomes and if we have negative outcomes and we just try and mentally trick our brain to start thinking positive, like the downfall of the positive psychology movement, is as a human being and how we're constructed and our brain and the way we're connected to our heart, our gut, everything else. If our results are negative and we're just talking positive, we actually don't. We don't actually get better. Our brain is too smart for that. So what we have to do as fighter pilots is chunk it down. We actually have to achieve positive impacts. So we introduced this extra step in our decision making, which is the debrief. So if you took debrief away, what it is, it's a thought loop. It's a loop of thinking. It's a feedback loop. It's not linear. And the loop connects what we want, our objective, to what happened, why it happened, and what I'm going to do tomorrow. And this is really important. In one conversation, we talk about the future. What are our strategic objectives? Today, what's our current result? Our history, what just happened to get us to this result? And when we find that one thing, the one reason why we had a negative result, we take action. And the action, again, propels us into the future. So very elegantly, what we've done here is through a structured conversation, we've intentionally driven from the future to today to yesterday, and through action, driven back into the future. And that's important because for many of us from a debrief, we just create another future perception. We just come up with another dream of what good looks like later. And you would know, Ed, the statistics around strategic execution in businesses are pretty average. It's not a big number. It's less than 50. Some people are naturally very good at this. Some people have a debrief mindset anyway. They're curious. A debrief mindset's akin to a growth mindset. You're always kind of unpacking why. What's useful about debriefing, though, is because it's a methodology as well as a mindset. Even those that are more fixed in the way that they approach life, and there's a lot of fixed mindset fighter pilots, very logic and science-based individuals who are very structured in their belief systems. It is the military, after all. This system creates an artificial growth mindset because after a debrief, you're going to walk away with 3 things to do differently this afternoon or tomorrow. And the mere fact you've done that means that you have, by default, grown as a person. Your capability and your competency has grown. Your confidence grows, all by sitting down and just walking through 4 simple steps.
So talk to me for a minute or two about the importance of limiting it down to that, as you said, 3 things. I would even say sometimes it's just one thing.
Yeah, one thing, right.
That's important to change. Why is it important to limit yourself rather than say, all right, we found 17 things wrong, let's fix all 17?
Because as we all know, none of us can do 17 things, right? There is some theory around the rule of 3s, and that it's actually easier to remember 3 things than it is 1, small, medium, large. You know, we came, we saw, we conquered. The life, liberty, freedom. Like there's a whole bunch of different rules around 3. In fighter pilots, we always had 3. We always had 3 objectives and 3 learning points. So I'm just relying on what I did back then. But hey, yeah, 1 is great too. I mean, 1 thing a day is 365 a year, which is a pretty good tweak. The other reason why people don't like debriefing or after action reports, wash ups, is we're generally reflecting on a whole quarter or maybe a few weeks. And so much happened during that time, a little bit like a witness statement with police. We make up stories in our head. Like our brain just creates false memories. And usually those false memories are akin to, well, it wasn't me, it was someone else. So it actually gets worse. The longer you leave a debrief from a learning point, the more out of context it is. Don't get me wrong, you'll still learn something no matter what you debrief. If you're committed to the action, not the discovery process. And this is where, root cause analysis, 5 whys, stand alone. They're useful, but they have to codify the action. If your root cause is, we need to recapitalize the entire business, you're not going to do that tomorrow. You need to do one thing that you can do tomorrow that a human can do, doesn't require an organization. And scale that out, an organization, an enterprise, let's look at an enterprise level execution. 200,000 people inside an enterprise, and I've worked at the C-suite at a company that's this. It took 3 years to get this scale, mind you, but 200,000 people debriefing every day, and 3 things a day get just tweaked in the organization. That's profound. That is beyond transformation. That is beyond change management. That is true evolution of an organization. And as we know, evolution never ends, right? Evolution is just a consistent test, adjust, and growth based on the environment that you're in. And the faster you can do that today, the faster you can adapt to the speed of today's environment.
And Boo, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
Look, I've always struggled with this question because I would never want anyone to view me as a hero. I've certainly done nothing to prove it, and I feel like my model of society is we've all got a bit of hero inside us, and I've seen so many examples of people transcend what they felt to exhibit a superpower that they didn't really believe. So I'm going to kind of sidestep that question and say, for me, I think there's a little bit of hero in everyone, and why I believe in this company and what we do is I think that we unlock that in most people.
And lastly, how can somebody get a hold of you?
Very simple. Afterburner.com is the website, or my personal website's callmeboo.com. But yeah, just Google Afterburner, and we typically show up somewhere near the top of the feed or our social media pages.
All right. Christian Boo Boucousis, CEO of Afterburner, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.